Hi everyone, welcome to a short video I'm going to make about the ignition system on this BMW R60/2. Um, we're going to install the magneto, the coil, the points, the advance, and set the timing. So um, this is a fresh engine build, and I like to do the static timing while I have it up on the bench. Um, it's really easy to work on in that case. Just to get acquainted with the parts involved with the ignition system, there's a magneto rotor and it has two marks on it, two lines scribed on it, you'll see. Those lines are going to line up with this notch in the in this points plate when we install this. And those need to all be lined up when the timing mark is at the S mark, the ignition timing at idle. There's a mark on the flywheel that's marked S, and I've got it lined up here in the window. And you'll see there's the letter S and then there's a line above it. What you actually want to use is that line. You want to put that line right in the center of the window. And sometimes I'll see people have it timed so that it fires at the S letter instead of the line. That's actually not correct. You want it to fire right at when that line comes into the middle of the window. Hopefully you could see that all right. So getting familiar with the points and everything on here, this is a new coil I've installed. It measured 29K ohms. It's a brand new coil, good to go, made by Emerald Island. It has a ground wire, which the stock coils didn't have, and I've just grounded it to the body of the of this thing here. And the other wire will go to the points. This is the condenser. It has a wire that also goes to the points terminal there on the points. These two wires will both go to that points terminal. These are the points themselves, and these ride this is the ignition advance. We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, let's talk about it now. So this is the advance manual advance unit, and it slips onto the nose of the magneto rotor like this, and it has a little there's a little notch here that this fits into. You want to make sure that it fits on there correctly and seats all the way down. So that's where it goes. And what happens is as the motor runs and the RPMs increase, these weights will actually spin outwards, open up, and it will advance the timing as the RPMs rise. If you look at the lobe on here, you'll see it's kind of egg-shaped, and it has two high parts of it. And those are what open and close. This is what opens and closes the points. As this spins, it opens and closes the points at these high points. It'll open it once over here, fire one cylinder, and then once over here to fire the other cylinder. But that's how the advance works. And the advance is what opens and closes the points. It'll mount like this, and as it spins, it's opening up and closing these points. So to get familiar with the points plate and setup, this is the points assembly, and it mounts onto this plate here. And you'll see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. These two screws here are what you use to set your point gap. In other words, how far the points are going to open. This screw here locks it into place, and this screw here is kind of an eccentric that moves you can see how it moves the points, and that will adjust your point gap. So these two screws adjust the point gap. These two screws adjust the ignition timing. So you'll see that the whole assembly moves. This is all made to move, and this is how you set your ignition timing on here. First, you always set your points gap, and then you'll set the timing. What's kind of annoying about this setup is that once it's installed on the bike with the advance unit on there, you can't get to these two screws to adjust the ignition timing. You have to take off the advance and then adjust it, put the advance back on, check it again. it's kind of annoying. And each time you put the advance on and tighten it down, it might knock it off just a tiny bit. So the other thing you'll notice is that these plates where these holes where this plate mounts to the motor, they're they're made so it can also the entire body can turn left and right a little bit. Some people set the timing like that. That's not the correct way to do it, although it works just fine. The correct way is to use these screws, but usually you can get it super close, and then if you need to nudge this out a little bit left or right, you can. But mainly those adjustments are made to line up the line in the rotor with this notch up here. So I've pressed the rotor onto the end of the camshaft here, and the next thing I'll do is install the points and coil. So I've got the S line right in the center of the window there, and then I want to install this over the studs, and I want to line the notch up here with the line in the magnetorotor, which is just about perfect here. Okay. And then there are two 10mm nuts that hold the body in place. So let me go ahead and install those real quick. And once you get the body installed, the next thing you can do is install the advance mechanism. And get that slipped in till it fits on its notch. And then the next thing we'll do is set the points gap here. So let me grab a light here so I can see better. The points gap is set to 16 thousandths, so you can rotate the engine until the high point, till the points open to their widest point. You can also just turn the advance like this if you want to. Find the highest point, insert your feeler gauge between the points, and you want it to be 16 thousandths of a gap right there. You adjust it with the little eccentric screw and then lock it down with this screw here. That's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so once you've got the point gap set to 16 thousandths, you can install the advance unit and its bolt if you want. And then this is how I check to see when the points open. I just have a multimeter here that I'm going to set to continuity setting here. And it's great to have one that has a buzzer like this one, so that when there's continuity, when the two leads touch, it'll buzz, and then when the continuity breaks, obviously it stops. So what we're going to want to do is adjust the points so that the points are opening, so the sound is going off right at that S mark, at the line for the S. So I've got my multimeter set, and then I've attached leads, one just to the case, anywhere ground, and the other to the top part of the points that open and close. When the points are closed, we'll have continuity, and when they open, the continuity will break. So let me attach the leads here, and you'll see as I rotate the motor here, I'm just turning the clutch on the back of it. You'll hear it stop, and then it'll start again when the points close. Now they're closed, and now they're open. That point right there, just where the points open, that's when you want to have the S mark in the window here. So you'll rotate the motor the way that the motor rotates. There's the F mark. There's the S mark. And right when that line for the S comes in to the window is when you want that buzzing to stop. that means your points are just opening at that point. That's when the coil is going to fire. Um, Actually, really close here on this one. Very, very close. And what's interesting is, let's say it's right on the mark here for the S. When you rotate the crankshaft 360 degrees, it's going to fire again. The other cylinder will be at top dead center on the compression stroke, then it'll be firing the other cylinder. But you might notice that when you spin the crankshaft back around and the S mark comes up, you might notice that it's a little bit different than it was on the previous turn. And that's because this advance rotor here, the lobes on it that open, they can be off, your camshaft can be off. There's a lot of things that can cause that. They call it differential timing, so there's a difference between when both cylinders are firing. That's not ideal. You want them both to be firing at the same, have the timing the same on both. This bike is super close, so both of them are right pretty much at the S line where we want them to be. So just something to be aware of. If you set your timing and then you spin your crankshaft 360 degrees to the S mark again and you find out it's a little bit off, that's what's causing that. But you want them both to be as close as possible. And there are ways to address that if you have differential timing. I'm not going to get into all that. But you want to adjust your points plate until your points are just opening at that S line. Button everything down and check it again. Some people use a light that comes on and off. You can use that too. I like to use the buzzer because obviously you can hear right when the points open. To do this when things are on the bike, obviously you'll have to disconnect the wire from the condenser and the coil to the points, or else you won't be able to use the continuity tester. So I've got both those disconnected and just connected to ground and then to the top part of the points. And that's basically how you set the ignition timing on a /2. Once the static timing is set, the bike will start up and run, and then you can verify your timing with a timing light. Every time I've done it with the timing light, the S mark is perfect. So when you set them statically, you know they're going to be good to go when you start them and check them with the timing light. What you want to do with the timing light, though, is make sure that the advance is working correctly. Once you build revs to, say, 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, and the advance unit opens up, then you want to be able to see the F mark for full advance come into the view with the timing light. Obviously, you can only check that with the motor running. So that's what I use the timing light for, just to verify the S mark and then to verify the advance is working and you're getting full advance. And that's about it. So good luck with these bikes. They're fun to work on, and it's kind of fun. It's a lot easier to set the timing on the bench like this than it is crawling around the front of the bike when it's on there. So that's why I like to do it before I put the motor back in. Anyway, thanks for watching.